Hi, this is Anil and welcome to the video tutorial for the learning guide on C++ programming. So in this tutorial we're going to learn about the variable scope in C++. A scope is nothing but the region of a program, and the variable scope is nothing but this region of the program where a particular variable is available. In other words, we can say where a variable is accessible in our program. So normally in our program we can declare a variable in three regions. One is inside a function, and next while defining the function, and next outside all the functions. So when we declare a variable inside a function and while defining a function, that variable is said to have local scope. And if we declare a variable outside a function, that variable is said to have global scope. So when we declare a variable while defining a function as a function parameters, they are also called formal parameters. Alright, now we're gonna see about them in detail. So the next thing that I want you guys to teach is about the block of code. A block is nothing but the region which contains some code. So in our programs, while defining the functions, we were using this curly braces. Normally in C++ program, these curly braces are going to form the block of code. So now we're going to see what are these local variables and what are these global variables. So as I told you before, when we create a variable inside a function, no matter which function, it may be main or any user defined function, that variable is said to be a local variable. So here, just for the demonstration purpose, I'm going to create a function. Let's call it as void display, and inside this function display I'm going to create two variables, int a and b. So these variables a and b are said to be local to the block where they are defined, or this variable a and b are available only within this display function. So we can't use this variable a and b in this main function or outside of this display function. So here I'm just gonna do the function prototyping. So it's gonna be void display, then nothing. And to demonstrate that, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna assign these variables with some values. Let's say 10 and b equal to 20, and we're gonna use cout and a, then add a space, then b and line. I'm gonna save this and I'm gonna call this display function inside this main. Okay, I'm gonna first save this and run this. So you guys can see we got 10 and 20. So now if I try to use this variable a and b in this main function, which is not possible, I'm gonna copy this and paste it here. If I build and run this, we'll get some errors. So we got error logs. Okay, a was not declared in this scope, b was not declared in this scope. That's because these variables a and b are defined in local scope. And similarly, if we define this variable in this main function, and if we refer them outside this main function or in any other function, which also results in error. And the next thing is about the global scope or the global variables. A global variable is nothing but the variable which is defined outside of all the functions, outside of this main function, outside of any of the user defined functions. So here, just for the demonstration purpose, I'm going to create a variable outside all the functions. Here after this function prototyping, outside the function, let's call it as x. And now I'm going to initialize this variable to a value of 100. This variable x is defined outside of all the functions, and that's why this variable x is available to all the functions defined here. So we can refer this variable x in our main function, And also we can refer this variable x in our display function. I'm gonna copy this and paste it here, and I'm gonna call this display function in this main function. Alright, build and run this. Okay, we need to add a semicolon, save it, build and run. So you guys can see 100 and 100. That's because this variable x is defined outside of all the functions and which is available to all the functions defined in our program. Alright, the next thing is about the block. So as I told you before, whatever we write between two curly braces is considered as a block. So here I'm gonna remove all these things, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a variable inside this block. Just remember this, between these curly braces, and let's say int p, and we're gonna initialize this to 25, and I can't refer this variable p outside this block. So if I refer this here, it will result in error. To demonstrate that, I'm gonna build and run this. So you guys can see here we got the error, and if I open up the logs, p is not declared in this scope. So this is called block scope. So in which block a variable is declared, it is available in that block only. Okay, now we have seen about the global variables, which are defined outside of all the functions, then local variables which are defined inside the functions, and also we have seen the block scope, or the variables defined in a particular block. Alright, the next thing is about the default value of the local and the global variables. So when we declare a variable globally, or when we declare a variable outside of all the functions, that variable will be automatically initialized to its default value. So if your variable is of type int, float or double, the default initial value is going to be 0, and if it is of type char, then it's going to contain the null character, or the end of string character, and if it is a pointer, then it's gonna contain the null. Alright, now we're gonna demonstrate that. To do that, I'm gonna refer this variable x inside my display function. So since it is global, we can use it in main or display, wherever we want, and that's it. I'm gonna save it, build and run. So you guys can see a value of 0, and if the variable is local, then at that time the variable is going to contain the garbage value. So I'm gonna cut that variable defined global, and I'm gonna put it inside this display function. So now it is a local variable. If I build and run this, so you guys can see some garbage value. So this is it, guys. This is about the local, global variables, and also the local, global and the block scope in C++. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like my Facebook page at facebook.com/learninglad, and if you guys have any doubt, don't hesitate to ask us, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.